The Brexit chapter may have officially closed in 2020, but the post-Brexit story is just beginning a brand new volume. And like any good sequel, it's filled with unresolved tensions, unexpected alliances, and a fair share of bureaucratic drama. At their first bilateral summit since Brexit, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and top EU officials Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa declared a new era of partnership. They didn't call it a full reunion, but they certainly flirted with something close. But let's get one thing straight. Nobody's talking about rejoining the single market, the customs union, or reviving free movement. But everyone is talking about something that sounds a lot like, well, Brexit with a dash of Swiss seasoning. That's right, and we talked about it this week already. The UK is looking east and slightly downwards for inspiration and finding itself eyeing the Swiss model. So what exactly is coming next? And is this the beginning of a pragmatic comeback or just a softer version of what hardliners call betrayal? Let's dig in. And first on the list is trade. For British businesses, the last few years have felt like an endless assault course of paperwork, checks, and confused customs agents. One key proposal on the table aims to align the UK's food safety and veterinary standards with those of the EU. And the effect of that? A dramatic reduction in border checks and smoother movement of agricultural products. This would be a game changer for UK farmers and exporters, especially those who've watched their goods rot in trucks due to regulatory delays. Critics argue this alignment risks turning Britain into a rule taker again, but supporters insist it's a price worth paying for economic pragmatism. And while the public discourse often frames regulatory alignment as weakness, businesses quietly applaud the potential to lower costs and speed up logistics. And next up, the Youth Mobility Scheme. No, it's not Erasmus. And no, it's not freedom of movement. But it's something. Both sides want to allow young people under 30 to live, study and work across the channel for a limited period. Think of it as a cultural timeshare, not a permanent visa. There's still a lot of negotiation to be done here. Quotas, durations, eligibility, but the intent is clear. Reforge the bonds that Brexit strained, starting with the next generation. Of course, this isn't without controversy. In the UK, some Brexiteers are already labeling this as a backdoor return to free movement. In reality, it's far more restricted and resembles similar schemes with countries like Australia and New Zealand. But perception matters, and every inch of cooperation is framed as either wise compromise or national capitulation, depending on your political lens. And let's talk security. Brexit may have been about taking back control, but the modern world doesn't care much for borders when it comes to threats. And that's why the UK and EU are building a new defense and security framework. From cyber threats to international sanctions, both parties are signaling they'd rather stand back to back than face global uncertainties alone. And British defense firms may even get a seat at the EU procurement table, a move that's already ruffled feathers in Paris. The stakes are particularly high given the volatile geopolitical context. Russia's war in Ukraine, the rise of China, and a potentially isolationist US on the horizon. And in that light, London and Brussels suddenly have a lot more in common. Beyond defense, there's cooperation on energy. The UK imports about 14% of its electricity from Europe. That's a lot of voles crossing borders. Rejoining the EU's internal electricity market could make this trade more efficient, reliable and cheaper. And linking carbon pricing systems could shield UK exports from Brussels' looming carbon border tax. And that's good news for British manufacturers and for Downing Street's hopes of boosting green exports. And in this climate-conscious world, aligning carbon markets is more than economic policy, it's environmental diplomacy. But none of this is simple. Negotiations will be narrow in scope, built on the foundation of the existing withdrawal and trade and cooperation agreements. And let's be honest, it is not going to be quick. Even Swiss-style deals take years of patient chiseling. Each topic, mobility, food standards, energy security, will require mini-treaties, compromises, and the occasional public relations tightrope walk. And then there's the politics. Starmer has the majority, but he doesn't have a blank check. The tabloids are already sharpening their headlines. Right-wing politicians, they scream betrayal, and left-wing purists want full reintegration. And meanwhile, Brussels knows better than to get its hopes too high. It's a cautious dance, with both sides trying not to step on each other's red lines. And complicating matters further, France is already showing signs of unease. Reports suggest President Macron's camp might oppose certain aspects of UK involvement in EU defence procurement. And British commentators worry about a creeping loss of sovereignty as rules are quietly realigned. And this raises the age-old Brexit question. Can you enjoy the benefits of membership without the responsibilities? So what happens next? We get negotiations. Lots of them. Behind closed doors, over coffee with translators and legal advisors, and the occasional eye roll. We get pilot projects, timelines, and maybe even some measurable wins. And we get a clearer sense of what Britain's post-Brexit identity actually is. Not a member, not quite a neighbor, but maybe something in between. A strategic partner if both sides can stomach the ambiguity. And no, this isn't about going backwards. It's about dealing with the present. The UK is no longer part of the club, but it's definitely hanging around the lobby looking for ways to collaborate without signing up again. So don't expect grand ceremonies or treaty reboots. Expect emails, compromise, and the kind of policy grind that rarely makes headlines, but quietly shapes futures. What happens next on Brexit? A slow, technical, emotionally charged, and utterly crucial evolution. The sequel may not be as explosive as the original, but it might just be the plot twist that redefines Britain's role on the European stage. And we'll be here for every step of it, because, let's face it, Brexit may be done in the sense they meant it, but the consequences, they've only just begun. And in the end, maybe Brexit wasn't a finish line. Maybe it was a messy, blustery, argument-filled new starting point. The real story of Britain's future isn't whether it goes back in, it's how far out it wants to stay. And so if you're wondering what's next on Brexit, spoiler alert, it's complexity, it's compromise, it's cooperation with a side of confrontation. And it's coming, whether Britain is ready for it or not. Subscribe to Outside Views, because navigating post-Brexit Britain, well, you'll want a map. And if you want to see another video right now, the next one is right here in the end screen, right next to a video from my newest channel, Zootastic. And there's already, because of parent requests, Zootastic for Kids on YouTube Kids. Whatever you are watching of these right now, I'll see you there. I'll be back.